and welcome to Hunter Fuel, a supernatural rewatch podcast for adults who enjoy their show with a chaser. I'm Liz.
And I'm Lynn.
Thanks so much for joining us for season two, episode 20, What Is and What Should Never Be. We model responsible drunkenness here. All participants are way over 21. No one will be driving. No one is pregnant. No one will be operating heavy machinery, handling weapons, or stealing our mother's silver. If you're playing along with us, those are the rules. If you decide not to follow them and you do something stupid, don't blame us. Lynn, what are you drinking this evening?
I went good old just red wine since I am extremely tired and actually I think I have a damn good card. So it's a good thing that's not bourbon.
Oh, this could be exciting. Well, okay, so you have red wine.
Yeah.
I know you had commented previously that you always try to figure out what theme the cocktail is going to be. So what's your guess this week?
Oh God. I'll admit this week was gonna be a challenging one for me because
Okay.
something maybe about wishes or
Oh, you hit it right on the head. The featured cocktail this week is a Wishmaker. It is 1 ounce each of tequila and triple sec, one
Ooh.
half ounce each of peach schnapps and blue curacao, 2 ounces of sour mix, and 2 ounces of pineapple juice. Shake all that with ice and strain and serve over fresh ice. Producer Mark, could you bring up our Supernatural game cards, please? So, Lynn, you have already said you think you have a pretty good card this time.
I do. I'm not saying I'm getting bingo. I'm just saying I definitely will have a couple of occasions to drink.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know. I've got some. I think it's going to be sort of a like a
Oh
like
yeah.
a
No, I mean, as I said, I'm not saying I've got bingo. I'm just saying I'm going to have a few occasions to have a sip or two or three.
a lot of potential squares.
Yes, yes.
All right. Well, as always, the first one is on the house. Now, I will say I am in the midst of a move, and my official Supernatural shot glass is in a box somewhere. So I have a substitute shot glass
Oh,
this week, which is a lovely skull.
how cute! That's I actually first like, is that a skull or a shoe? Because
It's
literally
oh
from
no,
my
it is a skull.
okay, that's why that when you held it at one angle, it kind of looked like a high heeled shoe from
I
a
understand. Yeah, it's got a defined jawline.
yeah. So well,
All right.
cheers.
Cheers. Mm, that is quite good.
Mm.
It's a little sweeter than I prefer, but it is pretty tasty. I am
Ooh.
not going to lie. If you're playing along with us, there is a link to generate a card of your own in the link tree. So with that, let's get this show on the road. Um, So the then is mostly scenes from the pilot. So we've got, Mary with baby Sam. We've got, young Dean with John. We've got Mary in her nightgown and her burning to death on the ceiling. John and the boys escaping from the house. Now we've got Jess in her Smurf PJs and at Stanford with Sam. We see her dying the same way that Mary did. And then we've got this last line from Dean, screw the job. The only thing we get's bad luck. That's
It's been
enough.
a very long time since they focused that heavily on the pilot.
You are
Very
not
long.
wrong. Yeah, it tells us something interesting is going on and first off, the then was quite long. So
Yes.
I suspect that the episode came in a little short. But yeah, it's almost exclusively footage from the pilot. Um,
Yeah,
so
especially
now
since we're almost in season 3 at this point. So, like,
we
that's
have 2 episodes left after this in season 2. It is an interesting choice, and we're going to find out pretty soon here why they've
yeah,
gone that route.
yeah.
So we have Dean in the car, and Leonard Skinner's Saturday Night Special is playing. Close up of baby's brand new license plate, the CNK80Q3. Because of their run in, Agent Henriksen from the FBI got awful close. So they have now ditched the Kansas KAZ2Y5 plate. And Sam has told Dean they're separated, that what they're hunting is a djinn. And of course, there's the obligatory genie, Barbara Eden in
Yeah.
harem pants joke. I love this. So you can hear right away, Dean is investigating this warehouse. The shot here where you see
Oh,
the Jin coming behind him through the window, and it's like he can sense it, and he stops, and you see it with like its creepy face pressed against the
oh.
window. Dean's got a knife with some blood on it, and we've got this kind of like but no, Jin is gone. This
But I mean,
whole
tell
time.
me this isn't like the typical setup of like your standard horror movie. Like, he goes in by himself with
Yep,
a it's
yep.
like, come on, it's
I'm
like,
gonna
come
interrupt you
on.
really briefly because this is all moving quickly. We're gonna pause in a second, but we've got a choke for Dean. He drops his weapon. There's a pretty cool blue flame effect here with the gin. All right, I'm gonna pause this on our title screen. Um, and real quickly, and then Lynn, I'll let you finish your thought. Is as Dean was walking along, there was this quick, like the camera was following him on the other side of the wall, and just in the middle there was this really quick, like blink and you miss it, of the Jin like watching him walk by. So
Yeah.
we know the Jin is there, we can see it, Dean can't. And as you were saying, it's kind of a classic horror movie setup. So I apologize. Go ahead and finish your thought.
No, I mean that pretty much like, as soon as he starts walking in, that this is probably just because it's too early in the episode for this to end cleanly, that this is probably not going to end the way he's hoping it's going to, because
Yeah, he
we're
can't kill the monster in the cold open.
no,
Uh,
no, you can't. It would it's like, okay, either that or that is the biggest red herring ever.
Ever. Um, well, and typically we say this a little earlier, but there is a big twist coming in this episode. We're going to assume you know what it is. But I think there's some kind of cool stuff happening right off the bat. Um, and it's interesting that like typically in a standard supernatural episode, they spend the episode trying to figure out what the monster is. And so here, right off the bat in the cold open, they're already mid hunt. So we know that something is already happening in town that has brought Sam and Dean there, but we don't get any of that backstory.
No.
Um, okay, so the only thing I'm going to mention here before we look at our cards is the Jin, the actor who plays the Jin. His name is Mackenzie Gray, And because of how kind of labor intensive and time consuming and expensive all of that tattoo work on his face was, they put it on and then he had to walk around like that for 4 days,
Can you
just
imagine not being
going
able to wash your face for
for
4
4
days? I'd lose my shit. Like,
w
if I can't wash my mascara off at the end of the night, I feel icky.
I get yeah, I can't so not only did he have to have felt grungier than grungy, his comment was he couldn't catch a cab to save his life.
That is probably
But all this
true.
ink all on his face.
Yeah,
Um,
because he would have scared the crap out of anybody.
yeah, it's certainly a bit of an off-putting look.
Mhm.
How is so what I think is really interesting though is if you remember at the end of the prior episode when the boys had that exchange where we should go deep, we should go to Yemen. There is so jinn are part of the sort of Arabian Peninsula tradition, the Middle East tradition. They're in the Quran, which we're going to
Yeah.
hear later in the episode. Um, but there is a location called the Well of Hell that tradition says is occupied by jinn, and the Well of Hell is in Yemen. So I
No.
think it's funny that you get that little sort of Easter egg at the end of Folsom Prison Blues. And then the first thing that you see in this episode is this close up of this new license plate of babies. Okay, so while we're
Yeah,
paused,
the one
let's take
question I've got though, and
mhm,
I remembered it when you said it, and then I forgot, and now I'm remembering again, is how the hell did they get the license plate? Like, who do they know who had because obviously they couldn't re-register the car.
apparently they did. My suspicion is, a combination of forgery and identity theft, which we know that they do to get credit cards. What I think is more interesting, to your point, is we're talking about a 1967 Chevy Impala, not exactly stealthy, not a stealthy
No.
vehicle, driven by two 6 foot plus dudes. But all you've gotta do it's like Clark Kent putting on his glasses,
I know. Suddenly
and
they
you can't tell it's
actually look different.
yeah, like, no, totally and completely unrecognizable as Superman if you put on glasses. Baby is completely incognito. All she needs is a new license plate, and I'm sure the FBI would be like, "Well, I know it's a '67 Chevy with 2 6-foot tall dudes in it, but it's not the same
Same
plate. It can't be them. Better let them." All right, I have one of the boys gets choked.
Um,
And one of the boys drops his weapon. So I have both of those.
I have one of the boys drops his weapon, and do I have someone gets choked? I don't think so. No, but
Okay.
I did have the weapon.
Ooh, I accidentally filled mine very full.
Ooh, that's just such an issue.
Mm, mm, that one's growing on me. I'm not gonna lie. All right. So coming out of hitting play, coming out of the
Yeah.
title card, the movie that we're watching here is a 1957 film called From Hell It Came. It's on the
You want to talk
television in the
about the
background.
stereotypical horror movie. There is
So
your
indeed. And the first clue we get something is amiss is when Dean sits up in bed shirtless, but he's backlit, god damn it. He's instead of the leather cord that his typical amulet is on, he's wearing a silver medal on a silver chain. So something is immediately different. And then he realizes he's in bed with a pretty attractive lady. We've got a meta moment here. I'll explain what it is in just a second. But Dean calls Sam and he says, I was attacked by a gin. And Sam says, you were drinking gin? He's like, no, no. Somehow I woke up next to some hot chick who harmed. Like clearly the boys are not
Uh,
having the same conversation
conversation.
here. That
I,
Uh, and then Sam hangs up, and you can tell from his face that he's like, "My brother, drunk again." Closes his book. He's got a criminal law book, written by Kevin Parks. Kevin Parks was one of the assistant directors. He was first AD. They had two, so he was one of the two first ADs that they had. So that's our meta moment. Uh, Dean's going through the mail. He realizes that he lives in Lawrence,
Lawrence,
Kansas, with
Kansas.
Carmen, who comes out with a robe, and she's putting the moves on him. She's like, "Oh, you can't sleep? Let's see if I can do anything about that." Dean does not seem to be terribly opposed to the idea, but
No.
um, he is pretty surprised though when she kisses him. So, like, as soon as she's gone, he's like, "Oh, fuck me, what is happening here?"
Yeah, I
Um,
know. Look at those eyes. It's like, holy shit. But what I find hilarious, and this happens several times throughout this episode, and it annoys me,
I'm gonna pause this for a second. Go ahead, Lynn.
is it's very clear that he has no fucking clue what is going on. And
None.
if he's trying to hide it, he's doing a horrendous job at
Right.
hiding the fact that he's clueless. Yet she doesn't seem bothered at all or pick up on the fact that someone who she supposedly lives with seems to be like having I know we know it's not amnesia because we all watched this episode,
She's
but
behaving oddly.
she doesn't seem phased by the fact that he is clearly not on the same page or book as she is or anything. Like, it's like
Yeah.
I'd be a little concerned if my significant other seemed that oblivious to what was going on.
I I get it. I get where you're coming from. The only sort of pass I'm gonna give her is it appears to be sort of the middle of the night, so she's potentially a little groggy. Um, but we're gonna hit play in a second, but no, I think you're right that Dean is clearly out of his element, and she doesn't seem to pick up on it. Now it's all going to become clear a little later in the episode, but it probably is a clue to what's going on that she's not calling it, not at least asking if he's okay. So while just before I hit play, while Dean was kind of looking around his apartment that he apparently shares with Carmen, there's a photo of her in a swimsuit that he looks at for a bit. It's kind of prominent. There's other photos of the two of them and their life together, and then all of a sudden he spots this photo. He spots something. We don't know what it is, and we never see it on camera. I'm hitting play, but whatever it is, it throws Dean into an absolute tailspin, and he drops it, the glass breaks, and he just hauls ass right out of this apartment. Um, Shows up in front of a house,
Yeah.
and but something is clearly going on with him.
Yeah.
as he's walking up to the house. So the house number here is 14, I'm sorry, it's 1841. The first word he says when the door opens is mom, and it's Mary Winchester. They've done kind of a nice aging makeup on her, so it's subtle. Um, but you can see like Dean's absolutely shaken.
Yeah.
And I have to say, Jensen's performance here is out of this world. He does such an amazing job here. And you can see Dean like trying to ask questions. He's trying to suss out like, is this real? And he says, you used to say something to me when I was a child. She says, I used to tell you angels are watching over you. Um, which we heard in uh Houses of the Holy. I,
Yeah.
I was about to say faith there. I got the two of them. But anyway, you can see he's just absolutely overjoyed. And what I think is interesting as well is that the whole color palette is not what we typically see in Supernatural. It's very bright.
Yes.
Lynn, I see you've paused it. Go ahead.
So yeah, so at least, and I almost wanted to call, so at least Mary is thrown by his behavior. Like
Yes,
as you said, like he's visibly trying to figure things out and all of that, and she's at least doing the, "Are you okay? I'm worried right now because you're
yeah,
not behaving like yourself," and it at least is acknowledging the fact that what she's seeing is not what she would expect to.
right. No,
So,
fair.
so yeah, so just I was like, okay, at least somebody's
Somebody
acknowledging.
notices. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, mama knows that your
Mama knows.
girlfriend might not know, but mama knows. All right. So, hitting play here, and I love this little like, "Oh, you're so beautiful, and he starts looking around the room. There's a book here on the shelves written by Carrie Fisher, who played Princess Leia slash General Organa in the Star Wars films. All of these photos that we see here were made by the art department. These are actual photos of Jared and Jensen as children that they photoshopped. We've got this fun little Route 666 patch on John's softball uniform. Um, and we realized that okay, so John has passed away
Yeah.
in this reality, that he died in his sleep from a stroke. And there is this little like, oh, that's great, what?
What?
Confused. And then,
Yeah.
oh, that he went peacefully, and of course, Dean has been wrestling all season with how John really died. Um, sh she says, "Have you been drinking?" Because everybody just assumes he's been drinking. And he's like, No, no, I wanna stay here." And you could see that, like, you're absolutely right, Lynn. Like, she's kind of like, "What the hell is wrong with my son?" And he's
Yeah.
just trying to soak all of this in. And there's this beautiful little moment here where she puts her hand on his face, and he's starting to believe like, holy shit, this is real. And he like leans into her. And it's just such a beautiful little moment. And Jensen adds all these little touches to this scene. It's a really fantastic performance from him, and a great scene between Dean and his mother. Photo of Sam's high school graduation. Parents are there. Dean is not.
Yeah.
So Dean has slept on the couch. It is now morning, and you've got the family in matching Christmas sweaters. Just like the anti-Winchester. Um,
Oh, so yeah, he's
and
like, "Oh crap, like what the hell is going on right now?"
yeah, yeah, like how can this be my life? So he finds himself a professor, excuse me, and starts asking questions about gin. And, and the professor is like,
Uh,
you know they're not real, right? And he's like,
like
"Oh, yeah, 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 I totally get it. Even the legends, can they actually grant wishes?" You know? Um, Even if you never said it aloud, can they make that happen? And so this professor is saying, like, yeah, they have essentially the power to alter reality as they see fit. And you can see Dean's hunter wheels turning. Like,
yeah.
why? To what purpose? Like, why would a monster have this?
I love that line. Have you been drinking? Everyone just assumes he's drunk.
I love here when he pops the car open. We've got a porn reference because there's a Playboy magazine in the trunk. Um, hmm, but across the street, he can see this young lady in a white dress. And if you listen carefully, you can hear the same water dripping sounds that we heard when Dean was investigating the warehouse at the beginning. He's nearly hit by a car because he's paying more attention to her than crossing this looking both ways before he crosses the street.
Yeah,
Um,
and if you pay attention to she's going to come back and just pay attention to her dress.
yes, yes, you are absolutely right. We've got a Dean Eats here because Mary has made him a sandwich. And it's like you get the
It
sense that like this could be, a peanut butter and cardboard sandwich, and he would just think it was the most wonderful thing on
I
earth.
was
Like he's just
I was like,
so
it's almost
happy.
like orgasmic if you watch the way he's eating it. He's like, "Oh my god, this is like an
A
experience in and
sandwich
of."
made by my mama. Yeah, he's thrilled to pieces. Um, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, your lawn needs mowing." Um, and he's like, "Are you kidding? I'd love to mow the lawn." Like he is just thrilled to pieces. She's like, "You've never mowed a lawn in your life?" And he's like, So he goes out, and again, it's this like hyper colored.
Yeah.
We've got Joey Ramone, Beautiful World here, and
I'm trying to
just
turn that thing.
he's the worst lawnmower on the face of the earth. Like, he's terrible. But he's really trying to embrace this like suburbia thing where he's like waving at the neighbors, and the neighbors are like,
Who
"What's
the
wrong
fuck
with
is
you?"
you know what you know what this reminds me of though is I'm trying to think of the movie, but that like that there was that movie about like the neighborhood that where like everything's perfect and all the colors are real bright and everyone's always in this happy-go-lucky mood and I'm trying to remember the name of that damn movie. And that's what this is kind of reminding me of. Where it's like where just where it's like everything is just everything appears perfect.
Yes, yeah, and you know what? And it's so funny because that you mentioned that because there is a film that I came across that this particular scene with like the fence and the roses is a deliberate homage of, and I forgot to write it down. So it could very well be the film
The
that you're referring to.
that
My
I can't
bad.
remember the name of either.
So I did pause it here as Dean is sitting on the front stoop with a beer because we've
Oh,
got some stuff to look for here.
yes.
Um and this man, this episode just it packs things in so quickly.
Yes,
So
it
the
does.
meta moment, I already mentioned Kevin Parks on the book, and also when Sam is looking at his texts, he has a series of communications from Christopher Cooper, who was the property manager. So by two, we have a meta moment. We also have a Sammy,
Yep,
and it's
I have I
blinking
have that.
blinking you miss it, but we've got it. Um, I mentioned already that the house number is 1841. Back in the pilot, the Winchester household is 1481. So it's the same house number, but it's backwards. Okay, so meta moment, Sammy, porn, Dean eats.
Yep, and
Let's look
I'm
here.
fairly certain I have Dean Eats.
Mm,
I think. Now watch me not have it. I thought I had that one.
I have a
Uh,
Sammy
yep, I have a Sammy.
and I have a meta moment.
I don't have the meta moment. I have
Uh,
nope. I don't have that. I just have the Sammy in this
all right.
grouping. So
Cheers.
cheers.
Okay, let's look here. Man, like this script was written by Ray L. Tucker, and
Mm,
it is absolutely packed. Like
yep.
there, like things just happen so quickly here. This is also the very first episode of television ever directed by Eric Kripke. Um, So I think that you're right. You've made a comment a couple times that it's sort of a quintessential horror film at the beginning. Um, and there are some things we're going to talk about later that the original script had kind of dialed it down a bit, and he's like, no, 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 I'm making a horror film. I want more blood. The thing I wanted to mention about the color scheme is it was I mean, obviously, it was done deliberately, but what they were going for was a kind of Wizard of Oz black and white to color transition, and that is gonna come back later, so in the episode, so we're gonna talk about that. Alright, before we hit play, the beer that Dean is drinking is called El Sol, so we're gonna keep
Mhm.
our eye on that too. All right, we're hitting play. Here's Dean on the front steps, enjoying his beer, and who pulls up along the curb but
Yeah.
Sam?
Yeah.
And you don't see it at first, you just see Dean's reaction.
Oh
Sam's
god, look at that
got
outfit.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, they are the yuppiest yuppies ever to yup, and it's Jessica. Jess gets out of the car, and Dean just, like, grabs her and gives her the biggest hug, um, and Dean is clearly super excited, and Dean is like or excuse me, Sam is like,
uh,
what the hell is wrong with you, man?" Um and right away, Sam points out like, "Oh, you're hitting the booze early," and it is Mary's birthday. And of course, Dean has no idea what day it is. So, um, it's all sort of
yeah,
we've got an awesome they're at
awesome.
a fancy restaurant, and they put this asparagus monstrosity in front of Dean, and Dean is like, "The fuck is this?"
Oh.
But you can see he's just so overjoyed to see his brother happy. He and Carmen have this cute little conversation. She's like, "What do you say we get a cheeseburger later?" Um, He says, "How'd I end up with such a cool chick?" And she's like, "I just have low standards." I think at this point, we can say he's hitting on her or checking
Oh,
her
yeah.
out.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't comfortable saying it earlier because he was
No.
just so stupefied, but he's on board with the plan now.
Well, that and
And
if you blinked, you missed it, but his eyes went all the way up and down, like, it was quick,
yeah,
but he definitely did a full check out, like, the
and
deed.
can't blame him. She's lovely and
Oh,
she's
yeah.
his girlfriend. It's okay.
Yeah.
So, um, and the whole time
Ooh,
Dean is like, I know we've got the young lady is back. We're going to talk that in a second, but the whole time Dean is like, man, I'm so happy for you. Sam and Jess announced their engagement, and Sam is like, what? Um, Dean spots this young lady, and Lynn, as you mentioned earlier, her dress is visibly deteriorated. I'm going to
yeah,
pause on this black screen, and again, you can hear that dripping noise. So every time she appears, it's accompanied with the sound of dripping water. And especially coming after Folsom Prison Blues, we're sort of expecting it to be a ghost. But we're not seeing any of the things we saw like 800 times in Folsom Prison Blues with the electronics flicker. There's no sudden unexplained cold spots. She doesn't have that like jerky way of moving that the spirits do.
no.
Okay, so we've got Dean checks out a woman. Awesome.
Yep, I got the deed
And
checks
I
out a
think that's it
woman.
for right now. Um, Something tells me I don't have either.
Yep, I definitely have that one.
No, I do not have either. And as I mentioned, I have sudden unexplained cold spot, but as we've said, we don't have any in this episode. So, however, I cannot
No,
let
you
you
can't let
drink alone. That would
no.
be rude.
Now,
You can have it.
quite now, and it's possible that I'm remembering it wrong because, as I said, I'm going
Cheers.
on very, very little sleep. But when they're talking about the books, does the lore not come up, or am I losing it?
I did not catch anybody say the word lore.
Okay, it's possible that just in my head that because they're talking around, like they're talking about the different things that in my head, and they just may not have used the word. But
Yeah, yeah. As far as I'm aware, they don't say it, but if you're playing along with us, let us know in the comments if you think we
yeah.
missed one. We're gonna hit play. Oh, we've got this photo of
Fish.
John fishing. Everybody comes home from dinner, and and Lynn, as you said, like people are starting to call him out on the fact that he's behaving a little strangely. Mary heads
Ev-
up to bed,
Everyone but
and
Carmen.
and Sam is
Carmen
like,
is
"Yeah,
not
let's."
calling him out on it though.
No, no, they're all apparently. We get the sense that Dean's behavior in this reality is pretty erratic, so they're just sort of used to him being a giant mess. Is my sense of it. Um, but Sam is like, okay, Jess, come on, let's turn in. And Dean is like, what are you talking about? It's only 9 o'clock. You're engaged. We both got hot chicks on our arms. Let's go out. Like, let's celebrate. And Sam has finally had enough. As you said, Lynn, like he's gonna call Dean out on this. Like, what are you on? Like, what is happening? We've got another Sammy, and I love like he goes to hit Sam on the arm, and Sam just starts to back up, and he's like, well, I don't know what's going on with you, but we don't talk except for holidays. We're not close. And then there's this little story here where he's like, you hooked up with my prom date, Rachel Nave, on prom night. And He was like, "Yeah, that sounds like something I'd do." My bad.
No.
A long time
Oh,
from now, that story is gonna come back, so file that away. But what we start to realize is that without hunting, they have nothing in common, and they just don't get along. Um, and that's, I think, honestly, the thing that's the most difficult for Dean to deal with in this reality is, that it his entire life he's taken care of his little brother, and he's only sort of half a person without Sam. And in this reality, they barely talk. So Sam goes to bed. Dean and Carmen apparently go home. She brings him another L Soul, and he says, "Oh, my favorite." Um, so he's you can see he's kind of spinning, and he's talking to her, and he's like, "Sammy and I, we don't get along." So like he keeps calling him
uh-huh.
Sammy. It's like he feels that they're estranged, and so he keeps trying to like build these bridges, and he's like, "I can fix it. I can fix things with Sam." Um, and you can see he's like, I I am apparently an asshole in this reality. Like without hunting to give his life purpose, he's kind of at a loose ends, and he's a drunk, and he does terrible things, and he doesn't like this about himself. Again, why Carmen's with him is sort of a question, but because she seems to have her shit together. Um, but he starts to put the moves on, and he says, I get it. I get why you're the one. And it's this sweet little moment. Um, he starts to put the moves on her. There's this hot little move here he does where he starts to kiss her neck, and she's like, "No, no, no, I have to go to work. No fair." Like, don't, we're not doing this now. I'm going to be late for work. So he's got the night shift. And Thi and this is a little odd to me. Like, she
Yeah.
starts taking her they're scrubs. She's, like, holding them up. "How does this look?" They're scrubs. They look like shit. They look like shit on everyone. That's, like, just she's already got the badge clipped to it, but as she's changing, he's checking her out while she's changing her
Well, that and it's like, oh, my girlfriend works in the hospital. It's like, what? When is she gonna look at him and go, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
I
Like,
know, yeah,
I've
not.
I've worked in a hospital for how long? Oh, and then this scene I love, like when he
Oh, boy.
suddenly realizes how many lives he and
Yes.
Sam have saved. What
Yes.
this just, oh my god,
This is
this
a great
breaks your
scene, and if
heart.
you watch these headlines as they go by quickly, there's the crash from Phantom Traveler, which was on December 5th, 2005. There's the mystery illness that kills children in Fitchburg from something wicked. And then the girl drowns in the pool at the Pierpont Inn from Playthings.
Yep.
Um, he sees something out of the corner of his eye. He chases it into the bedroom, and as he pops the closet open, there are these
Oh,
two, like, sort of mummified bodies hanging in the closet that are, hanging from their wrists. We get another look at this girl he's been seeing, and she looks really awful. Like, she's bleeding, she's very bedraggled, like, she's in bad shape. And once again, we hear that dripping water sound. So Dean starts to realize that
things aren't
because he and
right.
Sam aren't hunting, people are dying. And this scene here
Oh,
is
this rips your heart
fan
out.
fucking tastic.
Oh,
Jensen Like, if you thought you'd seen this guy at his best already, this one just, like, is a jaw-dropping performance from him, and I love this monologue where he's at John's graveside, and he's wrestling with this reality that okay, the djinn put him here, and yeah, his mother's alive, and Sam has, Jess is alive. Sam has this relationship. He's got a woman who loves him that he's building a life with, and he's like, What about us? Why do I have to be a hero? You know, is mom not supposed to have a life? Is Sam not supposed to get married? And he's like, and it just hangs there, and we get this one perfect tear
Oh,
slides down his face, so we'll look for a Dean cries in a minute. Kripke says when he was filming this scene, he knew Jensen had nailed it when he looked over and he saw the crew crying. He's
oh.
print that one. We're keeping that one. Um So Dean walks out of the cemetery, and you can see he's kind of wrestling with this idea that in order for all of these people's lives to be saved, he's got to give up this dream, not just for himself, but for his mother and his brother. And that's the trade. Lynn, I see you've paused it. Go ahead.
The one thing I'm surprised is not included in that monologue is that he doesn't comment on his bond with Sam.
Hmm.
That he says like it's this everyone's got what they wanted. Sam's got Jess, mom's alive, yeah, but he doesn't comment on the bond he's like why
He
I'm
doesn't.
surprised he doesn't say I've got everything I but I don't have Sam. Like I'm kind
Here's the
of
thing, though. You're on to something. Here's the thing. He says he starts with himself, like, what? I'm not supposed to be happy, but he immediately shifts to his mother, his brother. So his happiness comes from the people he cares about. Like he'll trade, he doesn't ask for a single thing for himself when he's having this kind of one-sided conversation with John. He asks for nothing, just for him. That it's all about his mom and his brother.
you are right. You
Yeah,
are right.
that's Dean's definition of happiness, is that his brother gets what he wants. So it's a really telling moment. You're absolutely right. It tells us something I think really fundamental about Dean's character that is going to reverberate through the next 13 seasons. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Such a great little monologue. Uh, all right. I've hit the wrong button. There we go. Still, nope, still not hitting the right button. All right. It's almost like I pre-gamed. Um, okay. I love this whole thing here. This is almost shot for shot with the pilot. We've got the camera sweeping along. Jess does that little wiggle in her underpants as she settles down to the bed. Sam hears a noise. His eyes pop open. Uh, he comes down the stairs. And, it's this dark house, just like
Look
in
at
the
the
pilot.
lighting.
The
Look the
lighting is very
lighting.
similar to the pilot, and we've got this fight backlit in front of the windows, just like the pilot, except now in this reality, Sam hasn't spent his entire life training in combat, and he loses this fight really quickly. But we've got the same like Sam Dean exchange. So it's a deliberate callback to the pilot. And Sam realizes Dean has broken in to steal mom's silver. Dean realizes he can't tell his brother he's hunting a djinn, so he makes up a story about owing a bookie some money. And you can see, like, this is not a shock to Sam.
Right.
Like, this is the kind of behavior I would absolutely expect from my loser brother.
Yeah, and I love it when I don't love it, but it's like the I can't believe we're related, and
Yeah.
like he's saying it with not an ounce of compassion in his heart, and he's and Dean's like, "I'm sorry,"
Yeah,
and
it hits Dean like a brick.
yeah, and that is with all the compassion in his heart. It's like two completely different things.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I love this last little look as
Oh,
Dean is leaving. He's like, "See you, Sammy." And he pauses and he like looks around the house because like he believes when he kills this Jin, he gives up all of this. Um, and he gets out in the car and he just sort of runs out of steam, which gives Sam time to catch up with him. And Sam is absolutely insistent he's coming with. Um, we get a we get a fun little now it's not on our bingo cards anymore, which makes me very sad, but we get a fun alteration of the bitch jerk exchange where he's like, "Why are you calling me a bitch? You're supposed to say jerk." What?
never mind.
So they're
What
trying
I
we
find
get a
interesting, I'm gonna pause this just for a second, is even in this reality, when push came to shove, Sam's still with them, even with
yes.
all of their differences and everything.
Well, and this is something that is really kind of interesting about this is all of this, everything you're pointing at as sort of not making sense is about to all make sense when we get to the reveal here coming up. And um, this behavior we're seeing from Sam, I think, is a combination of what Dean expects from his brother and part of the mechanics of what's happening. Right. So while you have it paused, we did get that really close up shot of excuse me, the license plate that baby has, and it is RMD 5H2. So it's none of the license plates, neither of the other two license plates we've seen baby have. And once again, we've got Mr. Saturday Night Special playing on the radio. So it's things are starting to kind of, it's like a spiral that's like winding down and getting closer and closer to where we started
Mm.
as Dean approaches this warehouse. Like he's made this decision to go back and kill the Jinn. And as he's coming back to the warehouse, we're starting to see repetitions of things that we saw in the cold open. So before we hit play, we did have a Dean cries. So let's take a quick look for that
Yep, I have that
since
one.
we are paused anyway. And I very sadly do not. I'm always so happy to see the boys cry, and yet I don't get rewarded for it. All right.
Wow.
I'm just gonna have a smidge. And by smidge, apparently I mean 3/4 of a shot because that's what I put. All right, we're hitting play,
We're hitting play.
And someone says, "What's in the bag?" And Dean's like, "Nothing." "What bag?" Slim decides he's gonna look. Dean's like, you're gonna
You're not
regret that." So
like, it
here's
it's
where, again, in the cold open, we saw Dean already carrying a knife with blood on it. Now we find out it's a silver knife with lamb's blood is what kills Jin.
yeah.
So we have to assume this is either something that Dean knew, or that Sam told him off camera when we weren't looking. But somehow he knew how to kill a Jin and he had ready access to lamb's blood. Um, so now he has acquired lamb's blood. He's got the silver knife from Mary's silver. And
Mhm.
Sam is like, "You're having some kind of breakdown. This is ridiculous." He starts to get his phone out to call, and you see Dean just start to roll down his window.
And throw the phone out, and he does it without even skipping a beat. I love that.
No, it's a great performance choice. And he's like, "I'm not going to a rubber room, Sammy." I think he calls Sam Sammy more in this single episode than he has almost the entire rest of the season.
And
Um,
possibly compared to both 1 and 2, actually, in my
it,
opinion.
like he's going out of his way to call him Sammy. They show up at the warehouse and they've been driving apparently 4 hours. So Sam has fallen asleep. Um, And he's Dean, we've got a Wizard of Oz reference where he says we're not in Kansas anymore. Um, and
We
Dean is
are
going in. We've got a repeat of this. We've got his close up of this typewriter from the
yeah,
cold open. And now Sam is behind him as he's going through the warehouse. And Sam is trying to talk him into leaving. He's like, "Come on, let's just go." And
I
they
love
start.
this line though, and I'm trying to think if it's here or not, where he goes, "Just be quiet and just stay behind me and keep your mouth shut." I
Yeah,
love that
"Stick
line.
behind me and keep your mouth shut." Yep, it's right here. And he's like, "Okay, the real Sam, my brother Sam would kick this thing's ass, but you just stay behind me and don't make any noise."
Yeah,
Um,
just try not to get us killed.
Try not to get us killed. Try not to get me killed, okay?
Yeah,
And the first thing that he finds is these two sort of desiccated bodies that he'd seen hanging up in his closet. And then he spots the young lady he's been seeing, and they're all kind of hooked up to these rigs that they've got needles in their jugular veins, and they're being drained of blood. And this is
yep,
where apparently initially the djinn was supposed to sort of mystically kind of suck their life force out, and
yep.
Kripke was like, "No, no, I want blood. I want a lot of blood." So they
See,
went with this, like, he's literally feeding off of their life forces. Sam and Dean go hide, the djinn comes, and you see him, like, pull, uh, pull the stopper out of this bag of blood.
ugh,
This girl, she starts to wake up and he's like, "Sleep," and he, like, puts her back to sleep, and she just, like, collapses. This is kinda gross here, like, oh, the way he smells her and,
oh
so
god, like,
he
it's so, and then, of course, he's chugging her blood, which is
tugging
so
away on the blood. Um Well, and they don't make a big point out of it, but, like, these people have clearly been chained up for an extended period of time, and they've got this close up of her feet, and she's just sort of dangling in this puddle. Um,
now
so it's like their conditions are like, that is not sanitary. That's all I'm gonna say. It's not sanitary.
now,
Um,
would we call that torture? I'm just curious. What are
I
your
would
thoughts?
not. But let's hold on for a minute and we'll revisit that. So Sam starts to real or sorry, Dean starts to realize she thought she was with her father, and he starts to piece it together like, oh, Jinn don't grant wishes. They just make you think that they have. And then in the corner is this rig with nobody in it. And Dean starts to kind of like tease out of his memory, oh, that's him. Like that rig isn't empty. He's in it. He's like, I'm tied up in this place. This is all in my head. So I'm gonna pause it because we've got Dean gets tied up now that we can officially call it. And I have one of the boys. There it goes. It didn't want to click off. I have one of the boys gets tied up.
Okay.
Gonna try to pour myself a slightly less generous.
Okay, I do not have that one.
Oh, I'm not gonna let
But
you drink alone, are you?
oh, no. Oh, hell no. I just don't have a square, but I can absolutely drink with you.
Yay! All right. So on the subject of torture, I do not have that square. So um I have to say I would tend not to be because again, I think of the things that we have definitively called torture, and they are it's deliberate abuse for some kind of purpose. What I personally see here, and if you disagree with me, it's open for discussion, but what I personally see is just that these people are a food source to this gin. It's not deriving any kind of enjoyment out of their suffering. It's just, this is, it like these are animals in a slaughterhouse to him. So if we wouldn't call it torture to eat animals?
I can see where you're coming from. I guess the fact that it's a woman tied up, dangling there, and she's still very much alive and
Mhm.
with a needle hanging out of her neck and all of
Yeah,
that.
it's not okay. I'm not saying it's okay, but it's not what I want to see in order to call it torture.
Okay. All right.
It,
That's it. It
say,
was just, it was a thought I had.
okay, so we're gonna hit play here, and this is where like he's realizing, okay, that we're, the gin is causing people to hallucinate so that they don't struggle, and that it can then feed on them at its leisure. And Sam is like, okay, let's get out of here. Like he's really trying his darndest to get Dean to leave with him.
Mhm.
And he's trying to convince Dean, no, like this is all real. And Dean's like, I don't think it is. There's again kind of a callback to Folsom Prison Blues where he's like, are you sure? And he doesn't specifically say, yeah, really pretty sure, but it's a similar exchange to the one they had twice in the prior episode. And Dean says, there's an old wives' tale that if you are about to die in your sleep, you wake up. So his plan is to kill himself,
I love that.
and
Like
that
90% sure.
they're really pretty sure that if he's right, this whole thing is going to end. And here comes Mary in her nightgown that she was wearing in the pilot, and Dean's demeanor instantly changes. Here comes Carmen, Jess is here, so like all of the major players in this fantasy life are trying to now convince him, like, okay, you're right. You're right. This is a hallucination, but it's not
Mhm.
that bad. Like, it's good here. Like, sure, this thing's gonna feed on you and you'll be dead in a couple of days, but it's gonna feel like a lifetime. You're gonna get to have a real life with Carmen. You're gonna get to watch your brother get married and have children. You're gonna get to see your mother live out her days in peace and security. It'll feel like a lifetime. And I get a great performance from Jared where Sam is, like, trying to encourage, and again, we've got that repeat of, Mary putting her hand on Dean's face and him leaning into it. Like, you can see
Oh,
him really, like, wrestle with
oh, yeah.
this, like, you know, "Okay, I know it's not real." Like, this is the Matrix question, right? Like, okay, it's not real, but it's better than real. Like real life sucks. Real life is
Yeah.
not fair. Real life hurts. This could be nice. And
Oh,
Carmen says she loves him. And so like these are the pieces of Dean's fantasy life. Like
mm,
this is the Jinn's survival mechanism, right? This is the
yeah.
Jinn um trying to keep its prey sedated. And there's just this beautiful moment where you can
Mm,
see Dean really struggle with this. And like you can see he doesn't want
yeah.
to give this up. And he actually apologizes to them. There's this great moment where it switches to he stabs himself and the color just immediately drains out. Cuts to Sam. So Sam has found Dean. He's tracked him down. And Dean says, Annie M,
Yeah.
there's no place like home. So we get another Wizard of Oz
Nice.
reference. Sam pulls the needle out of Dean's neck, and he's halfway through cutting Dean down when you see the blue eyes from the Jinn coming out of the darkness. It's a great shot. So Sam starts fighting the Jinn. He's got a blade dipped in blood. Um, and he's kind of coming out
Oh,
loose. I'm curious if you think that Sam gets conked on the head because he hits the stairs with his face pretty hard. And the Jinn is about to put the whammy on Sammy, and you see Dean stab it in the back.
oh,
So Dean manages to pull himself loose. This great shot of the gin collapsing on the ground in the frame.
oh,
And you can see like Dean's not in great shape here. Like you can tell he's you know been losing blood for probably about a day.
yeah.
But the girl is
Mhm.
still alive.
Yep.
Excuse me. So they start cutting her down. She
Yeah.
collapses into Dean's arms, and he's like, "I got you. We're gonna get you out of here." And look at his face. Like
Oh,
you can see him grieving for what he lost. And we've just got a couple minutes left here. We've got a quirky motel room.
hello.
Here's
Oh,
this El Sol
so
beer advertisement with the photo from Carmen that was in their apartment. Um, and the girl, Sam called the hospital. Apparently, HIPAA doesn't exist, and they told her she's gonna be okay. This is my least favorite of Sam's shirts that he's wearing right now, and Dean is insisting he's all right, and of course you can see Sam's not buying a
yeah,
word of it.
no.
Uh, Dean says, "You were such a wussy." So and Sam knows right away. As soon as Dean said that, Sam's like, "Oh, we didn't get along, did we?" And I love this little exchange where he's like, "It sounds like it was perfect," and Dean's like, "It wasn't." Like it's like he's trying to convince himself it wasn't perfect. Um, I think we have to call this a heartfelt broman.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%.
And this really great conversation between the brothers, and you can see how much Dean is struggling. And like, yeah, you gave up all that, but all these people are alive because of it. And it's kind of interesting place for the brothers to be at because, Dean was the one who dragged Sam into hunting. Sam wanted to kind of escape as
Mhm.
soon as he could. And now Sam is the one trying to convince Dean that it's worth the sacrifices. And Dean is literally rocking. He's so distressed that thinking
Mhm.
about how much this job has cost them,
It's fun.
uh, and
Yeah.
how much they've all
Lo
lost, how much they've sacrificed.
Right.
Um, and Sam is like, "It's worth it, Dean. It is." And he says what Dean didn't say when he was talking to John. It's not fair, but it's worth it. And the last shot of this episode is this look at Dean's
Oh,
face where he's
oh,
like, "Yeah, I don't know that it is. I don't know that it is worth it." And
oh,
that is our episode.
oh,
Okay. So we need to look for a heartfelt bromance, a quirky
yeah.
motel room. What do you think? Should we call that Sam gets conked in the head?
In my head, that Sam had gotten thrown up against the wall, and I didn't realize it was a staircase. So in my head, he had gotten thrown up against a wall,
Hmm.
not realizing that those were stairs. Um,
I would give it to you. I would agree with someone gets thrown against a wall. It was a good toss. We're
so
not going to
yeah,
be persnickety about it's some kind of immovable object. Um,
so
yeah,
I
because
was
it
kind of looking at that one, going in my head that that was a wall and not a staircase.
uh, the judges will accept
All right,
it.
well, I'm giving myself someone got thrown against a wall because to me,
I
it's freaking close enough.
I agree. I have given myself someone gets thrown against a wall as well. Um, but I don't have 4 in a row because we know we don't have a dude.
I
So
say
I must be
I have four in a row.
Oh, that is fantastic. Good for you. And
So
then, well, all right. So cheers.
cheers.
So what have we got?
One,
I
two,
have
three.
3 in a row and a total of 2, 5,
One, two,
7,
three,
8.
4, 5, 6. I have seven.
So I have more squares than you, but you have more in a row than I do. So I think if our goal is 5 in a row, then I would say you have won by, or you have lost by the least. I am prepared to call you the least loser.
Okay. Yeah, I would have
Um,
needed a flutter of angel wings to get five, and that was not happening.
but no, I needed a balls and an idiots, and considering the fact that Bobby isn't even in this episode, that was not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Excuse me. Couple little last pieces of trivia before we wrap up here. Is so Eric Kripke, who again was the director of this, he cited the Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode called Normal Again as being the inspiration for this script. And then the other thing is, we talked about that little exchange at the end where, Sam starts saying it sounds perfect. He's like, no, it wasn't perfect. Wasn't perfect. And again, sort of like the Matrix, they'd had the conversation in the writer's room that it couldn't be too perfect because if it was, Dean would know it wasn't real and would fight it. He wouldn't buy into it if it was too perfect.
Yeah.
Um, all right. With that, Tell me one thing you loved and one thing you hated.
One thing I loved, the grave scene.
Yes.
Well, I can't. I was gonna say Jensen, but Jensen's the only one in it, so it.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, again, Jensen knocks it out of the park in this
Yeah,
episode. But then once he gets to that, pardon me, once he gets to that grave scene, it's like he took like an amazing performance and just like cranked the dial up to 11. It's astounding.
yeah, yeah. The one thing I was not crazy about is knowing. I mean, I understand after what you just said, like why it couldn't be too perfect, because otherwise he would have caught on faster. But I have a hard time buying in his alternate reality that him and Sam would be that far
Mm,
off. Like that just bothered me because
okay.
I understand that hunting is not part of it, but I I refuse to believe that hunting is all that they
Mm,
have. Like there's yes, hunting is a lot of it, but there's a deeper bond between those two than just because when you see them when they're apart, they're not complete unless they're together, and that comes
yeah.
from more than just hunting together. That there's more to it.
I hear where you're coming from. I think the reason it doesn't bother me is because like we get enough clues in the episode that without hunting to give his life purpose, Dean is an asshole in this reality that he's a drunk and um, he in this reality, he didn't raise Sam from the time he was a child. That Sam had two good parents, and Dean stole from him and slept with his girlfriend. And like these are not just um normal sort of brotherly headbutting. That Dean is a loser in this reality. And Sam is the like in the real world of Supernatural, um they at least have a shared experience that their whole lives they haven't had anyone but each other, and that holds them together. Also keeping in mind that this is Dean's fantasy world. And I think there probably is a little bit of Dean that thinks his brother might be better off without him. So I hear where you're coming from, and I respect it, but that's why that doesn't bother me. I agree with you. The thing I loved was the exact same thing. Like that graveside scene like you can't pick anything else, right? Like it's got to be that. And I had a really hard time coming up with something I didn't like about it. And the only thing I could come up with is so Dean is mowing the lawn on Mary Winchester's birthday, which is December 5th in Kansas. You don't need to mow the lawn on December 5th in Kansas. That is literally the only thing I could come up with
Well, yeah,
not to like about this episode.
well, I mean, don't get me wrong. I was definitely being, I don't want to say nitpicky, but I mean,
You gotta be
obviously,
nitpicky.
you got to be. I mean, this is an amazing episode. It's an
This
abs.
is
It is a truly amazing episode.
I
And
agree.
why in his own like extra reality he'd have himself be a dick, That I'm like, "Really? I know it's in the script, but really?"
Yeah, that's what Dean thinks of himself, though. Like it doesn't surprise me at all. But that is our last call.
Yep, I got like one swallow left.
Hmm. So,
I truly did finish it off with that.
cha, cha, cha. So before we wrap up, I do want to say we got a comment. We have a new subscriber. His name is Michael, and I'm gonna summarize. But Michael has he wrote to us that he doesn't watch Supernatural because the monsters are too scary, but he enjoys listening to women talk. And so, Michael, welcome to the family. And I have good news for you because we talk a lot.
We
So
do.
you have come to the right place.
Right place. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's getting us to shut up. That's the problem.
indeed, indeed. So, Michael, we are very excited to have you along with all of our other subscribers. And we are just so happy that you have chosen to come along with us for the ride. If you like what we're doing here, be sure to tell your friends. Please also like our videos and subscribe so it's easier for other people to find us too.
And if you do want to hear Liz and I talk more, definitely give us some bonus content that we can put in Ask Jared. And then that way we can pour ourselves a couple more cocktails because, of course, that's what we always need. And we'll just sit there, come without any, well, not that we have a script to begin with, but even less
But I do
scripted.
have notes. We don't have notes for the bonus content.
No, no, we do not. So yeah, so we can't prep for that. So you really
No,
do get to hear us just off the cusp.
you
In
never know
in
what we're gonna say.
Ain't that
And
the truth?
neither
Is
do we.
especially after a couple of cocktails, we really
Indeed.
don't know what's going to come out of
Indeed.
our mouth. So
All right. So, in our next episode, we'll be watching season 2, episode 21. All Hell Breaks Loose, part 1. So, we are into the season finale officially when Sam makes some new friends.
oh
Until
God.
then, be safe, everybody. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.